working on some fall themed pillows for this video, and I have these old pillows. I have them in a couple of different colors and they're falling apart, not looking too great. And I thought, well, you know what? I can just keep the same pillow and make different covers to go over them, some little pillow slip covers. So what I'm going to do is I've got some cute fabrics that some I own, some I bought. These are new ones. I already owned this one, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways to make a little slip cover to go over an existing pillow. The nice thing is that, so you have decorative pillows and you just want to cover them for the holidays, then take the covers off. It's easy to store a cover and leave the pillow. I have some really pretty decorative pillows for the holidays, and they take up so much space for storage in between, and that's why I kind of like the pillow slip cover. Much flatter and easier to store. So that's what I'm going to do this go round. I'm also going to do some for Christmas, but I'm not going to do them in this video. So I'm doing fall specifically and not Halloween, but you can choose whatever you want. This is a holiday pillow, or even just a decorative pillow if you want to change them out seasonally. You want to make Easter pillows, whatever you want to do. So I traced off, and I will insert a little clip here of me talking a little bit about getting the appliques ready. I went online and just found cute little shapes that I like and copied and pasted them on my computer, and can grow and shrink them how I want and cut them out. This is Wonder Under. This is the paper side. Underneath here is the little glue side, and I just slip it underneath. You can see right through it so easily, and I trace off the parts. On the acorn, because it's in two parts, the bottom part, you can see I trace up a little higher so that I can overlap. So this was my bottom piece, and then right here is my little top piece, and then here's the little top knot. And I draw it a little longer. I'm going to put these pieces below these. So you have to kind of think about the order you're doing it. This fabric will go below this fabric, and this one will also. So this is my top one. This one can stay the same size. These I just made a little longer where they overlap, just so that I have perfect edges when I go to stitch it. I don't have to worry about them separating and you seeing the base fabric underneath. So I did two sizes of the little acorn. I have a big acorn, a little acorn, and 4 leaves so far traced out. But these are the applique pieces cut out. I have them in a little zippy bag. So before I can apply these, I need to go cut my fabric to the right size for my pillow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one kind where it's just the envelope thing. You don't have to have a zipper. So an envelope is a great way to just pull it in and out. And then I'm also going to show you the zipper style. So I'm going to go measure my pillow, and I'll show you how that goes. To measure for your envelope, so with how long you want your fabric piece to be. This is a 17-inch pillow, so I need my 17 inches twice. That's so that I cover both sides of the pillow. So 17 and a half and 17 and a half is 35 inches. That's before seam allowance, but I want to make sure they overlap. I'm going to pull this up here. So I want to make sure they overlap, right? So that when this is on the pillow, it's covered. So I don't want it to have a little separation where you can see the inside, what's inside the pillow form, or see the pillow form on the inside. So I want to have like a 4-inch overlap, but I need a little seam allowance in there. So if I'm already cutting this 35 and that just covers the pillow, and then add another 5 inches, that gives me some overlap plus a little bit of hem, which is all that I need. So I'm going to cut this 40 inches. I need a 40-inch strip by 18 inches. That gives me a little bit for seam allowance on the sides. So if I were buying fabric, that means that you need about 1.25 yards lengthwise, or like on this piece, I can cut it crosswise because it's not a directional pattern. Now, if I were going to do this with something else, like this one, for instance, if I were going to cut it crosswise, you'd have to, your fabric could end up like this on the pillow. That, or what ends up happening is your envelope is in a weird spot. You really want your envelope to go across the pillow from left to right, not from top to bottom. So you want to make sure you have enough lengthwise if you're going to do the envelope method. So I need 1.25 yards to cover this big old pillow. You just have to measure your pillow, decide how much overlap, do a tiny bit of math. That's really what it comes down to. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my long strip, and then I'm ready to applique on this, my little acorn. All right, so I'm at the ironing board. I've measured out my fabric to the length that I want, and I put a pin exactly in the center of what's going to be the face of my pillow. So here are my pieces so that I can kind of arrange them. The center helps me know where to arrange my design so that I can get my little acorn on here. First thing I've done is I've marked my center, which I'm going to leave for now just to help me, and I'm going to peel off. This is going to be underneath this, so I want to apply this one first, so I'm going to peel the paper off, and you have to be careful so you don't fray your fabric, but it just peels off like that. And this is the back side. This is the heat sensitive glue that's going to come off, so I'm going to apply this. Now I can pull my pin out kind of like that. And you can hang on to these, like if you want to make more, you can use these as patterns. If you're going to make a bunch of these pillows, I'm going to do the same thing to this one. But before I apply this, I'm going to go ahead and apply this one, and I'm just double checking my measurements here. I want to make sure that everything lines up nicely, and give it a press. Now this is not, you can't expect this to last forever. This is a temporary hold. This is to hold it while you're stitching, and that's it. So if you wanted to do this pillow and you wanted to fuse it all together but not sew it, it will not last. Okay, I'm just going to set this on here but not glue it yet because I have a little stem like this, and I want it to go underneath the cap too. So I'm going to go ahead and peel my stem paper off real quick and put it on where I want it, and then get my cap arranged. Now, I'm not going to iron these on, and this is why. What I want to do before I iron these on is I want to go ahead and stitch this one. And the reason is the stitching then will go up underneath the next layer. So I am going to go ahead and apply this one so I can stitch both of these pieces first and then come back and add the cap. So I'm just using the cap to help me know where to put my stem. And that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and iron my stem on, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch these. I'm just going to do a satin stitch applique, but you can do a blanket stitch or a lot of other decorative stitches, but I do like just a plain old satin stitch. Looks nice. So these are on and ready for stitching, and then once I've stitched around these, and I don't have to stitch this top part or this little curve here because this is going to cover it. All right, so I'm going to go to the machine next. Now, you don't applique with regular thread. So when I get to the sewing machine, I'll show you which thread I'm using. All right, before we start stitching, you need some of this tearaway stabilizer, and it's just going to sit underneath your project while you're stitching. So I cut it just wide enough to pin down a little bit, and you just want to make sure that it's in your stitching line so you can see it underneath. And I use this whether I'm using my embroidery machine or if I'm just doing some, like I'm doing here, just a little bit of satin stitch applique. So I'm going to just stick a few pins in to hold the paper behind, just to make sure it stays in place. And this does a couple things, including prevent your fabric from puckering from all of the heavy stitching that you're going to do. Now, I haven't changed my thread yet, but let me just show you the threads. Now, this is for the top only. These are specifically for embroidery. So this one is a shiny embroidery thread. I use these a lot with my embroidery machine, but it works great for this application too. Whoops. So I have a couple of these nice shiny ones, including the one I dropped on the floor. And then I have this one. This one's a cotton. I love the cotton. I wish I had more of this. I actually buy this for making jeans. This is my jean stitching thread. I like this for the top stitching on a flat felled seam on a denim, but it's also, this weight of cotton is a beautiful embroidery weight, and it fills in your stitches and it gives you a lovely satin stitch. So this cotton is a great one. I am going to use this sulky type shiny rayon thread this time around, and I actually think I'm going to use this plain old boring brown because I just like the look of it next to this, and I like it on the batik too. So that's what's going on top. On the bottom, you want usually like a 60 weight thread for your bobbin thread, and it just helps keep your tension balance. Some machines will actually have a tension you choose for satin stitching or for embroidery that helps keep the bobbin thread from bleeding through to the top. So I'm going to thread up, change my bobbin, make sure I have a nice new fresh needle on for this with a big eye, so that, and they actually make embroidery needles that have a larger special eye that stitches so much it heats up and it breaks your thread. So a good embroidery needle is a good choice too. All right, I have my machine set up for a satin stitch, which means my stitch length is 0.3, my stitch width is 2.8. I have my nice soft shiny thread on top, and I have an open toe foot. This foot's specifically made for gliding over heavy stitching, and it's nice and wide so it's easy to see. And now I'm just going to start up here because I know the cap of the acorn is going to cover this, so that's where I want to start. And I always look to make sure, I'm going to just do a little hand wheel action to make sure that my thread, my needle comes, and I know it's going to be a little hard to see, but my needle is right on the outside edge. You want to make sure your needle and your thread are covering all the way across, gently following the curves. You don't want to do any abrupt movements. You can make as narrow or as wide a stitch as you like. If you do have sharp points on something you're doing, you can actually sink your needle on the outside and rotate it in, and makes for a nice sharp corner. So I'm just going to go all the way around this, and I'm going to do this little one, and then I'll show you a close-up of the thread. So you can see the stitching line. That's how it looks. There's my little acorn at the top. So I'm going to just trim off these threads, and I'm going to glue down my cap and come back and stitch it. Here's how the back looks, our little applique. So now I've trimmed off my threads for the most part, and I'm going to go ahead and tear away this outer edge, and it's quite easy to just pull it apart. Gives it a little more shape and firmness, but if you plan on washing this, you want to remove this before you wash it. So now I'm ready to go ahead and hem my little ends. So here's one I've already pressed up. It's ready for me to stitch it down, and then I need to do the same on the other end, and then we fold it in and make our envelope. I have the pillow appliqued. There's the applique on the inside, and I've hemmed the ends of my long strip, and I've pre-marked my fold lines. So I remember I had the center of my pillow marked, so I knew exactly where I want to fold it. So when this folds in, here's the amount of overlap. You see that? This overlap from here to here. Alrighty, and I'm just going to straight stitch down. I'm going to straight stitch down here, and then I'm going to come back and serge it. You can see this edge is serged, and then this pillow will be done. And then I will, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you that completed, and then we'll do the zipper. So it's sewn. This is the seam where it's overlapped. You can see I've serged the edge. This is the other side. I haven't pulled out the paper yet from the inside of my acorn, but that's it. You can see here's the little envelope, and it just flips around. Like that. It's upside down. Like that. And it's ready to go on a pillow. Alright, so I'm shoving it in the pillow now. Here's the envelope in the back. Getting the corners of the pillow up into the corners of the little cover. Like this. Bloop. I'm actually going to hold it by its ears. Ta-da! Cute little pillow cover with an acorn on it for fall. Okay, so we're going to work on the leaf one. I went ahead and did the applique on the other pillow, and right here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but you can see how it's a little buckly right there. I actually stitched off of my stabilizer right there. So you can see how it affects the stitching. That heavy stitching on just one layer of fabric just isn't enough. But anyway, I've got my leaves on, and I just did a little freehand. This is a triple straight stitch and just some little whirlies around. And then on the back, I want to show you. So where the applique starts and stops, I'm going to do it right here. This is my little freehand triple straight stitch. I've pulled my top thread to the back, and I'm going to just tie these in a knot. and that just gives a little more stability, keeps and will makes it less likely that those stitches will pull out. And then I can trim those off. I need to do that on a couple more places. Here's another one. So I'm just going to go around and tie off these knots. And then this one is the one I'm going to put the zipper in. Here's the appliques on this little leaf. And for this one, I'm just going to put a zipper in the bottom. So the next step for me is actually to put the zipper in. And I only have invisible zippers, so that's what I'm going to use. I've serged the bottom edge where I'm going to put the zipper on both pieces. So now I'm just going to pin this right side down. There you go. You can see my zipper's the perfect length. So I'm just going to stitch next to it. I'm not worried about this being an invisible zipper, but I'm going to install it that way anyway, just because it'll look nice and neat. And from the bottom, it's just going to look like a seam. So I'm going to go ahead and put my invisible zipper in now. I've installed the zipper. So this is it from the inside. This is it from the right side. And this is the thing with an invisible zipper is it just looks like a seam, which I love. So now that that's done, and you can see right here, I've sewn up this corner so that that's finished, just to give me a nice little finished corner. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the other 3 sides of this with my straight stitch, and then I'm going to go back and serge these 3 sides, flip it around, and this is now ready to go on a pillow. There's a seam line, there's the serging, here's the zipper. When you sew this up, make sure your zipper, when you sew the other 3 sides, make sure your zipper's mostly open. If your zipper's shut and you sew your 3 sides, you have a nice completed square, but it's really hard to get the zipper open from the wrong side. So make sure you have it at least open a little bit so you can flip it around, which is what I'm going to do. And I have another one of my yucky pillows that I want to cover. So we're just going to flip it around and stuff it in. And look at it. Now this one is a lighter weight fabric and a lighter color, so I didn't want to put a dark red pillow inside this one. I was afraid it would shadow through, so I'm using sort of this wheat colored pillow for this one. Now if you use a really lightweight fabric, like a lot of cottons, if you're using light backgrounds, a white or an ivory or something, and you're putting it over a patterned pillow with a strong pattern, it can shadow through, so you might want to back your fabric if that's the case, if you're covering pillows. So I'm stuffed. It's not very straight yet. Once again, got to get the ear, get the corners in. There we go. And now it's ready to zip shut. It does not take long. So there's that. My 2 fall pillows. Ta-da, ta-da. Okay, so I'm going to go put them on the couch and show you how cute they are.